is something that I've sort of recognized most of my adult life is something that impacts me. And I've never really talked to anybody else about it. So I don't know if other people sort of experience the same sort of thing. If at the end of this video you recognize some of these things, you're like, oh yeah, I do the same thing, please let me know. But I look back now, ever since I recognized this about myself, I can sort of reflect and look back and recognize that this is a trend that happened somewhere basically my entire life, and I was always doing this sort of thing. I just wasn't aware of it until now, because now I can sort of recognize it, and I can feel it as it's sort of happening to me, and I sort of have multiple circles of interest all over in different aspects of my life that are always sort of rotating at different speeds and different directions. But okay, so also I think I'm not 100% sure, but part of me feels like this is some sort of manifestation of some form of mild autism or something like that perhaps I have, I don't know. But so on a macro sort of scale, I have all these interests. So let's say in my brain or in my soul or something like that, there's one big wheel that's sort of, and on there might be like, actually that's okay, so like I have a wheel that will have like sports would definitely be on that wheel, and like fiction and video games and movies and basically these sorts of hobbies and overarching interests that I have, these broader interest categories. And this is sort of more of a gradient instead of like individual sections, I would say, because I'm pretty much always interested in these things, just at varying levels. Like right now, my interest in sports is quite low, so I'm finding it sort of a struggle to especially talk about them for videos or get excited about them and that sort of thing at the moment. But I'm still watching sports. I still care about them. It's like an interest that's completely gone from my mind. It's just that at the moment we're sort of in the dark part of the gradient, and as the wheel continues to spin, that part of the gradient will get bigger and it'll become more important to me. But now, if you go into that sports section of my sort of proverbial wheel of interests, there's multiple sports on there that I like. So, like professional wrestling, baseball, football, hockey, soccer, basketball. I watch rugby. I watch a lot of sports. But this one is a little bit less of a gradient. Like right now, the last few weeks, I've really been getting into baseball. I've been watching a lot of baseball games, playing baseball video games, watching YouTube so I'm not really caring about football, I'm not really caring about basketball, that stuff's sort of out of mind. Maybe as football season comes up, just arbitrarily that wheel will be continuing to spin. Even now it's spinning, and eventually it'll pop over and maybe go to hockey, or maybe go to wherever, and things can be added or subtracted from that wheel. I wasn't into wrestling until about a year and a half ago. Now it's a major part of that sort of wheel of interests. And like, then I love doing, I have these very special interests in sort of like history and mythology and those sorts of things, and that's sort of a broader interest category. But there was a period about 9 months ago where I was super into theology and researching like Proto-Indo-European religions and looking at these connections and being like, these religions in this country, and look at these religions in this country, and look at these crossovers, and look at how these cultures influence these cultures, and look at this tradition here, and you look at what these people over here were doing, and they were both doing the same practice, and like researching into all these different connections and these different practices and traditions, and talking to different religious teachers and going into these online webinars and learning all I can learn about these different things. I think it's because I go like so hard, like boom, 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 digging into this, and then eventually I kind of just hit a wall and move past it. And this is really apparent to me, because I have all these interests, and it's always been a lifelong goal of mine to publish a novel. I have no illusions about being a famous best-selling author. I have no illusions about being able to have a career as a writer. None of that. It's just one of those things that, if I just self-publish it through Amazon for free, which like anybody can do, and nobody ever buys the book. So it seems like I want to prove it to myself that I can do it. And just to do it, it's a sort of important thing. And I told my wife, like, before my 32nd birthday, I want to finish a book. So I was putting all this time into it, and I was like, I wrote all these characters, I was world building and going up all these plot points. I sort of had these overarching plot points for a trilogy of books, and then I narrowed in, okay, well, the first book, this will be, and then the second book, this will be the arc, and the third book, this will be the arc, and this is the overall arc, and these are the characters, this person dies, boom, 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 boom. And I had this whole thing mapped out, but my problem sort of is that I get really engulfed in and inspired by the things I'm interested in at the time. So when I was first going with the idea for this book, I was watching a lot of tokusatsu. I was watching through Kamen Rider W. And I was like heavy into Kamen Rider. I was watching a bunch of Kamen Rider. And I kind of had this idea. It's like, well, what if I do this book idea where it's sort of like a gritty, like tokusatsu, like Power Ranger / Kamen Rider meets a sort of real world environment, and people can get killed, and there's like these really high stakes and lots of all this, and I was really inspired, and I was coming up with all these ideas, and I generated all these story points. But then now, as I'm like sort of gearing up to what should be me sitting down to write the first chapter, that the sort of wheel has clicked past that interest for me, and I haven't watched any tokusatsu in weeks. I sat down the other day to watch another episode of Kamen Rider, so I kind of get back into this headspace. To sit down and write, and I couldn't get into it. I was kind of like, not interested, and it's a thing though, because it is something I like and I'm interested in, and there'll be a period maybe in 6 months, 9 months where I'm like, oh, I should, I'll get that spark and I'll sit down and do it again. But the thing is, like, this has been a dream of mine for a very long time. This is something I've done many, many times. I've planned out a story about vampires. I've planned out like a sort of low fantasy storyline, because it was a period of time where I was like really into Song of Ice and Fire, because the Song of Ice and Fire is one of those ones that sticks in there and comes back around every so often, and then I started to get into it, and then I remember that George R. R. Martin's never gonna publish Winds of Winter, and I get out of it, and, but I have these, depending on sort of what I'm locked onto at that moment in my life, but I've had all these inspirations and these sparks and creative flames, whatever you want to call them, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, because this has been a lifelong dream of mine to write this book. I'll like get this spark, and I'll be like, this is the direction I need to go in. This is, oh my god, I thought of all these great things, and here's all these characters, here's all these settings, here's all this, and I wrote this whole like super hero one, and all this other stuff, because I was watching like The Boys at the time, and kind of some other superhero stuff, and I was like, oh well, I was like, why has nobody ever written superhero novels? Like, I know there's a few of them out there, but like, there's always comic books and movies, but there's not really like superhero novels, which is funny, because I know George R. R. Martin has wild cards, which is superheroes, but it's just not that big of a genre. So I was like, well, that could be a fun genre, but then by the time I have all my characters and stuff figured out, well, now I don't care about superheroes anymore. Anyways, that's sort of this cycle I found myself in. It's like I'm constantly in this sort of Buddhist cycle of death and rebirth, like I'm trapped in samsara, but it's all just sort of my own inability to stay focused on like one thing for too long before my focus immediately shifts to a different thing. And I recognize now it's something that's happened to me my entire life, and I definitely feel like it's impacted me here on YouTube, because there's a reason that my channel is a variety channel in the first place. But even though I am a variety channel, it's still the same sorts of things. I talk a lot about different sports. I do some video game stuff, movie stuff, and then some other little random, bits and pops here and there. But, and that's a product of me not being able to, there's some people who their entire YouTube channel is one video game or one sort of genre of video games. Like, this person just talks about 4X games, or this person has a YouTube channel just talking about baseball. This person has a YouTube channel just doing this, doing that, and it's a very narrow thing, and they stay in that lane. But I've always struggled with, and I've been unable to stay and stick with one thing. I always sort of, it's not even drifting like this, it's going like this with boom, 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 all these different bit stops along the way. And that does make it hard for me with the recording, because I'm like, okay, well, like when the NBA draft was just come and gone in the NBA offseason, I did maybe 4 videos about it, but truthfully, I have not really had any interest in the NBA in a couple months. I didn't really care about the draft, didn't really care too much for the offseason, and I just sit there and do research and watch videos and read articles and stuff in service of doing those videos, because I wasn't sitting there and organically engaging with the NBA at that time. Now the season's getting closer, I am sort of engaging with it a little bit more, but now, that is sort of a roadblock that I've bumped up against a few times. And, yeah, I don't know. is this? Why is that? That's probably part of the reason why. It's something I struggled with a long time. And I guess as well for me, it's asking if anybody else out there has experiences or things behaves in the same sort of way. I don't know. People in my life I've spoken to, I don't really know anybody else like it. Like, they weren't really able to understand what I was sort of explaining as I sort of explained this thing to them in the terms that I'm using now with you. But I don't know. Interestingly, just this week, ancient Rome has become one of my little special interests that have been added onto my wheel, which is funny because that's been one thing that I've sort of not had on there for never really before. I know for so many people it is. There's obviously that Roman Empire meme a few years back, but that was never really true for me. The Hellenic Age, the Greeks always interested me a little bit more, but I still wasn't really super into it. I liked Alexander the Great, but the Roman Empire, Caesar, all that, I was like, not really, don't really care. But this last week, 2 weeks or so, I felt drawn to it. Like, I want to go watch HBO's Rome, and I want to pick up Mary Beard has some books about Rome, specifically about like the Roman religion and how intricate it was. And, all these things I'm looking at buying these textbooks and things like that, just to do some research, and then maybe some novels, and maybe I'll download Imperator Rome and I'll play that, or I'll play Rome Total War, just like immerse myself in this, and then in 3 months, a month, 2 months, at some unforeseen point in the future, I will lose complete and total interest. I'll move on to the next thing, and then maybe in 18 months from now, I'll be back onto it. And I think it's because I have no ability to go any speed between 0 and 100. I'm either not engaging at all. That was a bad intuition. I'm either not engaging at all, or I'm fully engulfed, immersed in this thing, and it's all I'm thinking about, it's all I'm talking about, it's all I'm digesting. And I don't really have an ability to exist somewhere in the middle, so that could be, part of the reason that I sort of burn out on this, and I move on to the next interest. And I have the same thing with my music taste. Like, right now I'm in this sort of country music phase, which is rare for me. I didn't really used to listen to country, but I've been listening to a fair bit of country music recently. But I know maybe in 2-3 weeks I'll be in a hip-hop phase, then I'll be in a metal phase, and I really only listen to one genre of music at a time. Like, a few weeks ago I was like basically only listening to Latin music, lots and lots of Latin music, basically all in Spanish. And because of the way I go through these cycles, like my liked songs on Spotify is a disaster. Usually I press play and I have to like skip through like 20 songs to get to something that I'm in the mood for. But yeah, I really only listen. I like basically all genres, but I only listen to one at a time. Like, I'm just gonna be listening to rock this month, and next month maybe I'll be like some girly pop, or like it's all up there, like 80s new wave. Like, next, like, you can never predict it. But I don't know. Just a little bit of a ramble today, because I didn't know what else to talk about, and maybe somebody out there feels heard for the first time, or maybe I actually am crazy. Who knows? But if you like the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to